Episode number 31, Murphy Brothers Ancestry discussion. An email conversation edited and shortened between two Murphy brothers, one in Paris, France, Garry, and the other one in Massachusetts, Rod, regarding our grandfather, Patrick Joseph Murphy, and his father. First, a comment from one, and then from the other. Then another comment from the brothers about Patrick Joseph Murphy, our grandfather. Garry wrote, "My great-grandfather, Con Murphy, and grandfather, Pat Murphy, were impoverished farm laborers with no land and no prospects. Pat was a member of the Fenians, the 19th century Irish Revolutionary Army. He was instrumental in creating major problems for the British occupation. He was indicted and then tried in absentia and sentenced to hang. By that time, he was on a boat on his way to Boston." Rod wrote, quote, "Our cousin Paul Murphy told me another version of the County Cork Murphy history. According to Paul, Con Murphy, our great-grandfather, was the overseer, the boss employee of what was, we think, Lord Donneray's huge ascendancy estate north of Mallow in County Cork. The ascendancy were British thieves, often the less important useless royals, who stole the land from the Irish. Donneray is now the name of the village next to the estate. The story goes that Con's son, our grandfather, Patrick Joseph Murphy, followed in Con's footsteps as the overseer. If this was so, both had very good jobs for Catholics in their time. Pat Murphy loved horses and was in charge, among other things, of caring for the horses and the other livestock." The story continues. "Some British guests of the Lord visiting Donneray were hunting on the property and by mistake shot one of the Lord's, and therefore Pat's, loved horses. Pat braced the Brit, had an argument, and killed him in a fight. Pat was 6'5" and a big guy, blonde and blue-eyed. Killing a Brit was a death sentence for Pat. So he skedaddled to Cobb, Port of Cork, and sailed to Boston, thereby establishing our line of great Americans." Garry wrote, quote, "Still, Pat was very likely a Fenian." Rod agrees. An observation by Rod about Irishmen who immigrated to America follows. Characteristics like courage, risk-taking, troublemaking, spark, hard work, and high intelligence seems to be found more prevalently in those who risked leaving what they knew, even if it was miserable, and immigrating to the unknown USA. Exactly what Pat did when he established the American Murphys. Garry agreed. Rod wrote, "He, Pat, continued his love for horses, I understand. First he had a job as a trolley driver and finally the starter boss of all the trolley cars and the schedule at Central Square, Cambridge trolley station. The trolleys were pulled by horses. I still have the elegant pocket watch that Pat used to run the trolleys and the buses on time. The inscription on the watch, Trolley Starters Watch, Boston, Massachusetts, used by my grandfather, Patrick Joseph Murphy, born County Cork, Ireland, 1864. His courage allowed future Murphys American citizenship and rights. Signed, Roderick Patrick Murphy, 1984. Second, Dad told me that Pat Murphy was present at the first day of the first American pari-mutuel betting horse racing track at Rockingham Park in New Hampshire. He was a betting man, as was Dad, and so am I. We all liked the track. Some of us, when we were kids, went to Boston Suffolk Downs with Dad. I loved it. There is much more email correspondence between Garry and I. Most of it provides insight into our differing opinions of the Catholic Church and its recent scandalous history." This is Rod Murphy. Thank you for viewing or listening to my podcast episodes. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, and if you so choose, I ask you to send a good review and refer a friend who might be interested in this old Boston podcast series. Again, my thanks.